The church and Christianity is the only place you can get robbed and nobody call the police. And nobody call the police. The church is the only place you can get robbed and nobody call the police.
And I talked with Dr. Nichols about it, Superintendent Nichols about it. In addition to praying for her, until she gets delivered, she doesn't need invitations.
Okay, when I say fuck Christianity and fuck the church, what I mean is it's a lot of shit going on in the church.
Buckle up, because things just went from hallelujah to hold up what in the gospel world. Yep, the holy waters are rippling, and this time it's Leandra Johnson, the powerhouse voice, the Grammy winner, the truth teller, who's shaking the table. And who's on the receiving end of this not-so-sanctified sermon? None other than Bishop Marvin Winans himself. Yes, that Marvin. Gospel royalty. But according to Leandra, behind all the robes and records, there's a whole lot of shade. Let's just say she's not biting her tongue anymore. Nope, Leandra's had it with the behind-the-scenes hypocrisy, the fake smiles, the holier-than-thou attitudes, and she's calling it all out. So what really went down between Leandra and Bishop Marvin? Did he really try to act like she was a nobody? Did he actually get her blackballed from the industry? And most importantly, is Marvin Winans really the man of God he claims to be? We're diving all the way in, so grab your tea, your popcorn, and maybe even your church fan, because this gospel story is getting hot. And once you get to the end of this video, don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments, because you are not going to want to miss a second of this drama. Let's get into it. Now, it all started with one encounter that left Leandra deeply hurt. She recalled how Marvin Winans walked right past her like she didn't exist, as if she were a nobody, a peasant even. That moment stayed with her, and she didn't just shrug it off. No, she took to social media and aired it all out. Shades off, voice loud, and message clear.
Marvin Winans. Yeah. You can say I'm not a product of you, because the word got back to me. She ain't no product of me. Oh, no. Before I can have ears formed outside in this world, I was listening to you. And if I can go back, and if I can tell my mama not to listen to you, I'll tell her that.
As you can hear, she expressed her deep disappointment, saying he could have been her spiritual father, but instead, he treated her like she didn't belong there. And even though it hurt, she stood tall and made it known she's not weak, she's not fake, and she's not afraid to call people out, no matter how famous they are in the gospel game. But that was just the beginning. Leandra didn't stop at being ignored. She went further, accusing Marvin of playing dirty behind the scenes, allegedly blackballing her from industry opportunities simply because she chose to speak her truth. And when she talked to one of his close associates, they warned her that Marvin wasn't going to want anything to do with her because he didn't support what she was doing. Her response? Who are you to decide my path? She made it crystal clear. She doesn't need validation from anyone wearing a fancy robe or sitting on a throne of church followers. In fact, the disappointment ran so deep that Leandra said if she could go back in time, she'd tell her own mother to never listen to Marvin. And as for meeting him, she once dreamed of that moment. But when it finally happened, she described it as heartbreaking. According to her, he came off as arrogant as an MFer, in her own blunt words. Now, if she saw him walking down the street, she said she'd just nod and keep it moving. No hate, but no respect either. Just distance. What makes this even more shocking is who Marvin Winans is. He's not just any preacher, he's considered gospel royalty. The man founded Perfecting Church and owns nearly 90 commercial and residential properties in Detroit. That's big. He's admired by many and seen as a pillar in the Christian world. So for someone like Leandra to stand up and speak against him, that's huge. But don't get it twisted. Leandra isn't just doing this for drama. She's been in the gospel scene for a long time, with 5 albums, a Grammy, and even an appearance on Preachers of Atlanta. She's been living her faith out loud for years, and this outburst isn't random. It's personal and painful. Her message wasn't just about Marvin, though. It was about the entire system, the way some churches operate like businesses, the way leaders live lavishly while their members struggle, and how people ignore the cracks in the foundation for the sake of tradition. Leandra called out the hypocrisy, pointing out how year after year people attend church conferences only to find out the people they worship are no different from anyone else. She asked the hard questions.
Your hard-earned money. Don't even know if your light's gonna be turned on tomorrow. And you gonna sit up here and get on my live and tell me something wrong with me? Ain't nothing wrong with me. Nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
According to her, some pastors are more focused on profit than prayer. Leandra even opened up about starting her own church and how 4 other people in the gospel world followed suit, not out of faith, but for the money. She said it out loud. It's a lucrative business, and in her eyes, Marvin Winans is no different. She feels people keep putting him on a pedestal, but his true intentions don't match the image he presents. To her, it's all a show, and she's tired of pretending everything's okay. At the heart of it all, Leandra isn't just lashing out. She's making people look closer. She's tired of the smoke and mirrors, tired of being dismissed, tired of watching the church turn into a place of performance instead of purpose. Her rant wasn't just emotional, it was a warning, a wake-up call to anyone still blind to what's really happening behind the pulpit. And get this, she also exposed some chilling skeletons in Marvin Sapp's closet that sent shockwaves through the gospel community. While many in the Christian circle were quick to bash her for her raw and unfiltered words, some started connecting the dots and realized she just might be telling the truth all along. During her explosive rant, Johnson called out not just the hypocrisy she experienced in the church, but hinted at deep pain and manipulation behind closed doors. You drink too. Yeah, you do, she said, pointing fingers at others hiding behind the pulpit while dealing with their own demons. She spoke about being hurt in the church, and despite backlash, she didn't back down. In fact, her outburst caused Essence Festival to cancel her 2018 performance at the gospel portion of the event, allegedly because Marvin Winans himself pulled strings behind the scenes to blackball her. Johnson didn't hold back in her response either, declaring, "Apparently me speaking my right, my freedom of speech, caused me not to be at the gospel part of the Essence Festival. And I'm pretty sure they don't want me to be there because I said F Christianity, F the church." That statement shook the industry, but not everyone abandoned her. Some fans stayed loyal, acknowledging that she was simply saying what many had felt for years. One person wrote, "She's speaking what's been going on in the churches for a long time. It's good to know God for yourself." Another added, "Sis is not lying. A lot of these pastors have been using the word of God and people's pain to get rich." But the real question is, was Johnson just bitter, or was she dropping facts about Marvin Sapp? To find out, we have to look at the man behind the pulpit. Marvin Lewis Sapp, born on January 28, 1967, shared that after his parents divorced, his life took a turn for the worse. He began using substances at the age of 12, was drinking and popping pills by 16, and by 18, he was using cocaine. While he always sang gospel music, he admitted it was only because his mother made them go to church, not because the church was truly in him. Eventually, things turned around. Marvin rose to prominence as part of the gospel group commissioned before launching a solo career. In 2007, he reached new heights with the release of Never Would Have Made It, a heartfelt tribute inspired by the loss of his father, Reverend Henry Louis Sapp. The song resonated deeply with listeners and cemented his place in gospel music history. As his musical influence grew, so did his ministry. Marvin became the pastor of Lighthouse Full Life Center Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. In 2010, tragedy struck again when Marvin's wife of 18 years, Melinda Sapp, passed away from colon cancer. She was a beloved figure in the Grand Rapids community, known for mentoring local youth and playing a major role in the church's development. Her funeral drew 2,000 mourners in person and over 100,000 online viewers. Now a single father of 3, Marvin turned his pain into purpose, leaning even deeper into his ministry and music. Public sympathy elevated his profile even more, as many admired his resilience and strength. But as time passed, murmurs began. Then came the controversy that had people really side-eyeing. Church officials started selling Melinda's funeral program for $10 each, a 12-page color booklet with her biography, poems, service listings, and family photos. A lot of folks said never would have paid for it. And the red flags didn't stop there. Some questioned how fast Marvin returned to preaching and performing, as if grief had quietly stepped aside to make room for business. Then in 2013, the story took an even darker turn. A 30-year-old medical resident named Dr. Telica Patrick went missing, and somehow Marvin Winans was right in the middle of it. According to MLive.com, Dr. Patrick had been obsessively reaching out to Marvin. She moved from California to Michigan joined his church, and even enrolled in his Bible study, all in what appeared to be an effort to get closer to him. Marvin later confirmed that she had sent him letters, voice messages, and even appeared at his church. He claimed he never responded to any of it, but kept over 400 pages of correspondence from her. He eventually sent her a formal letter banning her from his church. The letter accused her of inappropriate messages, sending explicit pictures, showing up at his home, and even trying to interact with his children. But here's where things get murky. Private investigator Jim Carlin, hired by Dr. Patrick's family, wasn't convinced. Then, things took a devastating turn. In April 2014, the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office confirmed that the body found in Lake Charles, Indiana, belonged to none other than Dr. Telica Patrick. Her car had been abandoned nearby, and she had drowned. The official ruling? Accidental death. But that didn't stop conspiracy theories from swirling. Some people began to wonder, did Marvin's rejection play a role in her mental spiral? Was there more to their relationship than he let on? If there wasn't, then why wouldn't a pastor, someone who preaches love, compassion, and salvation, offer guidance to a young woman clearly crying out for help? He was a man of God, after all. Where was the pastoral care, the empathy? And this wasn't the only time Marvin Winans found himself tangled in public criticism. In 2013, Real Housewives of Atlanta star Kandi Burruss released a gospel track called Stay Prayed Up. And who did she feature on it? Marvin Sapp. Now listen, the man sang his soul out, but that wasn't what got folks talking. The backlash was immediate and fiery. Fans called Kandi a hypocrite for releasing a gospel song while also running an adult-themed business and hosting a racy online show called Kandi Coded Nights. And of course, Marvin didn't escape the drama. Gospel fans were confused and disappointed. Why would a man so rooted in ministry collaborate with someone whose brand was so far removed from the church's pews? Critics accused Marvin of chasing clout and coins rather than protecting the sanctity of gospel music. In response, Marvin posted a typo-filled message on Facebook, one that didn't do much to help his case. He claimed, "Compromise was never done here, nor do I condone her lifestyle or life choices." He added, "Keeping 100, you don't know the off-camera conversations we had." Okay, sir, so you don't condone her lifestyle, but you're singing with her on a gospel track? And what kind of off-camera conversations could justify this collaboration if you were really trying to be a spiritual example? But let's not stop there. Fast forward to September 2021. R. Kelly was finally found guilty of racketeering and teaking, and the public wanted answers. How did he get away with it for so long? The truth was ugly, a web of enablers, including figures in law enforcement, the music industry, and yes, even the black church. This brought attention back to Marvin Sapp, who had collaborated with R. Kelly on the 2017 song Listen. And let's be clear, the allegations against R. Kelly had been out there for years, even decades. But Marvin, he defended himself in an interview, saying the song was recorded before the controversy got loud. Then he added, "The message is always bigger than the messenger." That may sound deep in a sermon, but it fell flat for a lot of people. Not only was the song mid at best, but the justification just didn't sit right. People accused Marvin of hiding behind grace to excuse bad decisions. And not just any grace, the kind that gets pulled out like a worn-out card whenever a public figure is called to account. The church was not having it. Folks said, "Y'all will wear out grace like an old pair of sandals. At some point there has to be accountability." Still, Marvin kept pushing forward. But his name popped up again when a resurfaced video started making rounds online. In the clip, he's seen instructing ushers at his church to lock the doors. Yes, lock the doors. People were outraged. Many saw it as financial manipulation cloaked in spirituality. Critics began asking, since when did salvation become a transaction? They referenced Matthew 21:12-13, where Jesus literally flipped the tables to cast out those who turned the temple into a marketplace. And Marvin, he took to Facebook again, this time with a post titled, "Let's add context to the clip on social media." He claimed it wasn't at church. It was during an international conference at a convention center. He said they asked for minimal distractions to ensure financial accuracy. But the damage was done. Now, even with all this heat, Marvin's ministry hasn't exactly collapsed. He still leads several locations of Lighthouse Full Life Center Church, and he holds a high-ranking leadership position as suffragan bishop and senior advisor to the presiding bishop of the Global United Fellowship, a network with over 2,200 churches across 22 countries. So yeah, he's not just preaching on Sundays, he's running a global operation. Now let's proceed with his marriage, which can only be described as a train wreck. Marvin was married to gospel singer Vicki Winans for 16 years, and while they seemed like gospel royalty, it wasn't long before the cracks started showing. In 1995, the marriage ended, and Vicki didn't mince words. She blamed Marvin. "If he had treated me better, I'd probably still be here," she said. And here's the kicker. Marvin allegedly fathered a child, Josiah Winans, in 1988, right in the middle of their marriage with another woman. Cheating? Yes. But Johnson's accusations go deeper. It turns out Marvin has had some serious run-ins with the law, too. In 2012, he was mistreated at a gas station and robbed of his Rolex, cash, and SUV. While the public initially sympathized, that quickly changed when news broke that he was driving with a suspended license and had an outstanding warrant for failing to appear in court. Suddenly, the gospel image was looking a little less holy. And it gets worse. In 2018, Marvin was slapped with a lawsuit from his own housekeeper, Layla Harris. According to court documents, Harris worked for Perfecting Church and claimed she was pressured into giving 10% of her $18,000 salary. Yes, you heard that right, to the church. When she refused, she was threatened, humiliated, and eventually fired. Marvin allegedly told her directly to cough up $1,800 in back tithes or have it deducted from her biweekly checks. When she wouldn't budge, the church reportedly docked her pay for things like birthday gifts for church managers. Her supervisor even mocked her, saying, "I know you have 10 floating around in your little world. You just don't want to give it up." That's not spiritual guidance, that's spiritual extortion. And it's not just employees feeling the heat. Even church members say they felt judged and mistreated. One heartbreaking story came from Charity Grace, a single mother who was barred from participating in a children's dedication service simply because her child was born out of wedlock. In 2013, she revealed how excited she was to raise her son in the church, only to be shut out because she wasn't married. "That's where everything just broke loose," she said, recalling how church staff told her that Pastor Marvin Winans didn't allow unwed mothers in the ceremony. For someone seeking faith and community, being rejected like that was devastating. Now, while the church might be entitled to its own rules, when those rules come from Marvin Sapp, fans can't help but call out the hypocrisy. After all, how can a man who fathered a child out of wedlock himself stand in judgment of others? It's the double standard that's got people talking. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, brace yourself. Back in 2013, Marvin's own nephew, Michael Winans Jr., was sentenced to nearly 14 years in federal prison. Why? Because he scammed over 1,200 investors out of more than $8 million in a massive pyramid scheme. Court documents revealed that Michael promised investors sky-high returns on bogus Saudi Arabian crude oil bonds that didn't even exist. He guaranteed they'd double their money in 60 days, but it was all smoke and mirrors, just a slick con cooked up to line his own pockets. Now, Marvin wasn't officially named in the investigation, but come on, people weren't buying that he had no clue what his nephew was up to. Some folks believe Michael was simply playing the same game his uncle had taught him. And even if Marvin didn't know every detail, the fact that he did nothing to stop him speaks volumes. It all paints a shady picture of a man who's been preaching one thing and living another. So when Leandra Johnson put him on blast, she wasn't doing it for clout, she was risking her career to speak truth to power. Yes, her words ruffled feathers, and some might see them as disrespectful, but to her, it was about exposing the truth no matter the cost. So when Leandra Johnson exposed the gospel game, she wasn't just ranting. She was pulling back the curtain on a system that many had been too afraid to question. Whether you love her or hate her, it's clear that what she said struck a nerve and left many wondering how many more skeletons are still hiding behind the stained glass. Now I want to hear from you. Was Marvin just misunderstood? Or is there more to the story than meets the eye? Do you think his actions reflect his faith or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other video to stay in the loop on what's really going down.